Good morning. Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Here in a new week. It's Monday, the 7th of October. Hope everyone is doing well. Let's hope at least this week ends up being pretty good. And if you also have your targets for the week, it's also good to end up having specific targets that you plan on getting. So at least you know whether or not you've achieved your goal by the end of the week. So hopefully we can end up helping you guys get to that goal. So I guess we're a good number now, so we should be able to start. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? My name is Mitch Kaniero, and I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. So as usual, I am not here alone. We do have John. He is in the back office, so he'll be here to assist with whatever questions or queries you might have. So feel free to ask those questions either in the Q&A section or in the chat box. John will be there to respond to you, but remember, I will still be addressing all the questions asked at the end of the webinar. So we can jump straight into it. So as usual, we'll start off with my screen and we'll end up having a look at our watch list. So this is our watch list for today, but let me quickly go to what we were looking at on Friday and look at the difference. So you can see on Friday right here, our focus was to look for buying opportunities on the Swiss franc, the Canadian dollar, as well as the US dollar. And we're looking to mix and match those three pairs with the pairs on the sell side. So you can see that's from the euro, the British pound, Japanese yen, the Australian dollar, as well as the New Zealand dollar. Now, today, there's only been a slight change where we do have the Swiss franc and the British pound, which have switched sides. So last week, we had the British pound on the sell side, but today, as you can see, we'll be looking for buying opportunities right here on the Canadian dollar, the US dollar. Similar situation Friday, as well as the British pound has moved to the buy side. And you can see we're still looking for selling opportunities on the euro, the yen, the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, but we do have the Swiss franc, which has gone to the sell side. So as usual, we'll end up having a look at the pairs that we did have on Friday that we're not going to be looking at today before we do end up learning from what we could have done from those trading opportunities. Then we'll jump on to today's pairs. So let's start off with the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. Now, the Japanese yen really showed a lot of weakness. As you can see on Friday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. And you can see the illustration John had pointed out where it did end up working out exactly as he had mentioned. Well, the price was down within this particular area. We did end up wanting to see whether or not we could get the price coming back in and holding above. And if we did see that within one of the market opening times, we could have actually gotten a nice buying opportunity. And if you realize, let me just zoom in quickly. You can see the illustration. Once the price came in and was holding above, you can see that was at exactly 3 o'clock. Did take off at 3:30. That was mainly because of the non-farm payroll. But you can clearly see the buy really did work out going to the upside. At 4:30, the price was holding above here. You can see the price has managed to continue going up slightly. However, this was mainly because of the yen pairs, which did end up showing a lot of weakness. So even though the trade worked out on Friday, the fact that the Swiss franc and the Japanese yen are both going to be on the same side for us today, that's the reason why this is a pair that's going to be off our watch list for today. So looking at the next Swiss franc pair that we did have the Australian dollar against Swiss franc. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. But you can see nothing really much happened. Initially, when the price was, or at least when John was discussing this on Friday, price is all the way down within this bias area. And remember, if we want to sell, we want to sell within a seller's area. We want to avoid looking for any sells anywhere close to an area where buyers have reacted from before. And you can see, rather than getting the breach to the downside, we did get a pullback. Wanted to see how the market would react here, and it was holding below within this particular area. But at 3 o'clock, we did end up getting a lot of strength, or a lot of weakness for the US Swiss franc that did end up coming up, as you can clearly see. The price really did go to the upside, and once the price was holding above, there was no trading opportunity just yet. We're hopefully seeing whether or not the price could get all the way to the top, because remember, this price was actually ranging, at least this market was ranging. So the best place to look for the sell was at the top, but you can clearly see nothing really much happened, because both the Australian dollar and the Swiss franc seems to have been showing quite a bit of weakness on Friday. So that's a pair that did not necessarily work out. And remember, we did point out the Swiss franc pairs didn't work out, but the Swiss franc against the yen did, but that was mainly because the yen was the one that was dragging. So looking at the next pair that we did have the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. On this kind of pair, we were meant to look for selling opportunities. And you can see the illustration John had pointed out. We wanted to see either a breach and a proper hold below for us to look for selling opportunities. And you can see there was a small breach to the downside, but the price did pull back and it was showing as if it was holding below. But even if you did look for a selling opportunity, remember, we always point out, make sure you manage your trade where the buyers did end up pushing up from, or at least where the new low is. You can see the price attempted to come back to here. And this is around 3:30 before the price spiked up and was holding to the upside. As you can see, this market seems to be in a range from this point till this area right here. So unfortunately, no big boys interested in this. And that's the reason we will not be looking at it as well today. So looking at the next pair we did have the British pound against the US dollar. Now, similar situation. Yes, on Friday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Now, the sells did work out, but this was nothing to do with the British pound. This was mainly to do with the US dollar, showing us a lot of strength that did end up coming in. So you can see the price did end up giving us a pullback. We want to see whether or not the price is going to come back in and hold below. Unfortunately, you can see the price almost gushed towards our main seller's area, but we're just slightly shy. But you can realize from 3 and mainly at 3:30 during the non-farm payroll, that's when it really did come to the downside. But you can see we could have potentially looked for a selling opportunity if we did get the price breaching this area to the downside and holding below. But you can clearly see that's not what ended up happening. In fact, this is just a huge probe, because you can see once the price came down, it came back up and was holding above. As you can see, the price has not been able to actually break this area to the downside. So that's the reason why we also point out, if a level is to be broken, just wait for a retest to come in, because a lot of times, many people who are jumping in on sells right here definitely have been stopped out right now. So do make sure that you're not one of those. So moving on to the next pair that we did have the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Similar situation. Yes, on Friday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities, and the sells did work out during the non-farm payroll. That's mainly because the Canadian dollar did end up getting a lot of strength as well. And you can see the pullback managed to get all the way till the main seller's area right there at the top. And you can see at 3 o'clock, that's when the price didn't manage to come down. We did get a small hold to the downside, but it seems like it came back towards some sort of small support and resistance area. You can see this is an area where buyers have reacted from before. Also an SNR, where it was also a resistance area. It seems that's as far as the price would go back to, because remember, the British pound was also showing a bit of strength. So even though the price came down, you can see this pullback that's been coming in. That's the reason why this is a pair that we're not going to be looking at today. So hope that's clear as we move on to the last pair for review. Now, we did have the euro against the Swiss franc. Similar situation. Our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. But remember, I did point out the Swiss franc pairs were not really reacting as well as we had wanted. They actually ended up getting a lot of weakness at 3 o'clock once the non-farm payroll did come in, because you can see, wanted to see whether or not we could get the price breaching this area to the downside and holding below, as John had illustrated before here. But you can see once the price came down, it came back up and was holding above. And it kept on holding above until 3 o'clock. That's when the price really did take off to the upside, still coming back to our main seller's area. There would have been potential selling opportunities here, but you can see this is because we were overall within a major seller's area. And the sellers, you can clearly see the price still seems to be holding. Unfortunately, even looking at the way the price came up in terms of the strength of the buyers versus the strength of the sellers, this is not really a good pair to look for yourselves. Neither it is going to be a pair we're going to be looking at for buys, because we could end up getting issues where we could find out that this price actually just starts ranging. Because remember, when both pairs are on the same side, we do end up tending to range within the market. So if you do love ranges, then there's a possibility you could end up liking this pair. But for us, we want something to actually drag a pair on the other one side or the other. So fortunately for us, this is a pair that we're not going to be looking at today. So as usual, on Mondays, we don't necessarily share the screenshots, although we did end up getting quite a few. There were some very nice trading opportunities we also managed to get on Friday, but we will end up reviewing more screenshots for you guys tomorrow. So remember, if you do manage to take any setups based on things that we do share, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details should be there in the chat box. And at least we should end up learning from those trades as well. Trust me, you will end up improving a lot, especially when you're trying to share your trades, getting advice on what you could do, and also learning from that. So let's jump on to today's pairs. So as usual, in this situation, we'll start off with the Canadian dollar pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the sell side before we move on to the US dollar, then the British pound, before we do have a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So we'll start off with the Canadian dollar pair, so the euro against the Canadian dollar. Now, this is a pair that we did end up having on Friday. And you can see the three areas that John had pointed out, looking for the selling opportunities. But initially, when we're discussing the market, the price is all the way up above this particular area. Remember, we did end up pulling off our watchlist slightly, but it was only until the price was able to come back in and hold below. But unfortunately, during the London session, nothing much happened. Price was just holding within this area. It was about 3 and 3:30. That's when the price really did take off to the downside during the non-farm payroll. So this one might have been a bit difficult to get unless you are very aggressive, looking for your trading opportunity right there at the top. You can see the price has managed to come back down all the way till the buyer's area. So overall, our bias here is still going to be looking for selling opportunities, and we'll pretty much have the exact same areas, mainly because right now, if we do want to end up jumping in on sales, we need the price to come up a bit higher. Ideally, if you want to go, or at least if you own a shop and you want to sell items, you need people who are willing to buy in order for you to sell. The same concept applies here in trading. So the fact that we want to sell, right now, everybody is selling. The price is so low. We don't want to sell at a low price. Chances are we should end up at least getting a higher price from here. So hopefully, if we can end up getting the price coming back in, potentially within this area, we see the price holding below. We could end up looking for a selling opportunity there. But be aware the price has potential to still be able to come all the way up towards this main seller's area before we do end up getting the price coming down lower. So the fact that we came down very aggressive on Friday, that doesn't mean the price might not come back. Because right now, the fact that everybody's jumping on sales, we don't have a good place to look for any stop loss, or at least an area where we can end up finding a stop loss. And that's the reason why we need this pullback to come in. So we'll pretty much be waiting for these three areas. Let's see what ends up happening. But remember, if the price ends up continuing to come down, we can only look for selling opportunities once we get the price breaching and holding below this yellow support and resistance area. And once we are able to see that, we should be able to look for selling opportunities. But remember, watch out for the market opening time. You can see even based on Friday and the fact that we always review our trades to show you guys that at 3 o'clock and 4:30 or at 3:30, when there's a big news event, chances are you should end up finding some movement, or at least that's when we expect the market to move. So that should end up helping with your timing. A lot of people usually ask, when do I enter? So that's a part of timing. So knowing the exact time that the market could end up potentially moving does end up helping you, and it should end up also increasing your probability. So let's move on to the next pair that we did have. So here we have the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. Remember, the Canadian dollar showed us a lot of strength based on the non-farm payroll. In similar situation, the yen showed us a lot of weakness. And that's the reason why you can clearly see this price really did shoot off quite aggressively to the upside. And you can see the illustration John had pointed out initially during the London market open. We're holding below here. Wanted to see whether or not we could get the price coming back in and holding above. And you can see it did. Unfortunately, we could not get much of a pullback. But if you do take note of the time, around 3 and 3:30, that's when the price really did go to the upside. So the price is all the way up here. Remember, we do not want to jump in on any buying opportunities all the way at the top. If we want to buy an item, we need people who are willing to sell it. So we need sellers to be incited in this market. So that's the reason why we should end up seeing the price coming back in, potentially testing this support and resistance. I can see these are major SNR that was reached to the upside. So usually the market structure, higher highs and higher lows. Right now, I've just made a higher high. Let's see if we can get the price coming down, making a higher low, potentially testing this support and resistance area. We do see some sort of probe or price action signal within one of the market opening times. Remember, 10, 3, and 4:30, we could end up looking for a nice buying opportunity on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. But remember, the fact that one is strong and the other is showing a lot of weakness, if you do end up getting the price breaching and holding to the upside, then there could be a potential buying opportunity. But remember, it would potentially work out if it's there within one of the market opening times. We need a big boy to actually move the market. So I hope that's clear on what our game plan is looking at on the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So pretty clear cut right there. So as we move on to the next Canadian dollar pair, which is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. Now remember, similar situation, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Hence the three areas that John had pointed out. We were getting a pullback because remember, the price was coming down. We wanted to see the price pulling back towards the support and resistance area for us to look for a potential sell. So you can clearly see the price side coming down, quite aggressive, or at least coming up. Instead, slowing down to the buy side. We saw some aggressive sellers coming in. Price was holding. So the London big boys weren't able to really do much. But during the US session, clearly you can clearly see the price really did come to the downside. So today, bias here is still going to be looking for selling opportunities. So we have identified three areas to look for those selling opportunities from. The fact that the price has come down, we are at least starting to get a pullback. As you can clearly see, we've been coming down, making new lows. Right now, the buyers seem to be making higher highs, which is what we want. That's the pullback that we're trying to look at. So hopefully, if we can end up getting this price approaching this particular seller's area, because you can clearly see this was a major support and resistance area that the price was holding. The fact that we've broken into the downside is that it has a high likelihood of pulling back towards this area. But remember, it doesn't mean that when the price gets there, you just jump in on a sell. You can end up waiting for some sort of probe or price action signal or whatever criteria you do end up using to look for entries. You can be able to look for selling opportunities there. But if you do not see your entry criteria, chances are we could even still come all the way back to the main seller area. and we could still end up seeing sales working out from there. So just watch out for that. And you remember, if you do not, or at least your entry criteria is not clear, you can feel free to reach out to us. We do have the AMP program, which the new class should be starting soon. So those of you who are interested, feel free to send us a text. You know, our contact details are right there in the chat box, and we'll end up reaching out to you and seeing what we can do to try and slot you in on the new class. So hope that's clear, at least on the Australian dollar against Canadian dollar. So moving on to the next Canadian dollar pair, you can clearly see the amount of strength the Canadian dollar did get during the non-farm payroll. So Friday, here our bias was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the three areas. Wanted to see either a pullback coming in, or if the price is able to come down lower, break and hold below this area right here. And you can see it did exactly that. So the price managed to come down during the London sessions, because you can see at 10, it got the strength to start coming down. Came down, showed us confirmation that it was actually holding below. And you can clearly see during the US session at 3, the price ended up giving us a nice spin bar. Those of you who use spin bars or recognize candlestick patterns, you can clearly see the price really did come down from there, but it was mainly at 3:30 during the New York, during the non-farm payroll that did end up bringing this price really down lower. So it's a similar story with all these pairs. As the price has come down, we do not want to jump in on selling opportunities now. We need those pullbacks to come in. So we'll wait to see how those pullbacks come in within one of these potential areas right here. So right now, we're not necessarily gotten the buyers coming back in, because it does still seem to be in some sort of small range. The sellers still seem to be pushing from here. Not so able to get the price coming up a bit higher. So let's hope to see if we can end up getting the price coming in, potentially coming in, exciting a number of people to start looking for buys. And once we do end up seeing the price holding below, we could potentially look for nice selling opportunities here on the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So I hope that's clear on this. If this price manages to go and does something similar to what happened on Friday, it's still an okay trade. Might not necessarily be the best ones I would be looking for, but you can see they still do end up working quite well. So you see the price ended up holding below, and it's there within one of the market opening times. You could end up finding some nice selling opportunities as well on this pair. So hope that's clear on all these Canadian dollar pairs. As we move on to the last Canadian dollar pair we do have. So here we have the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. Remember, the Swiss franc was showing us weakness, and that's the reason why you can see this price has really gone to the upside. So today is a brand new entrance on our watch list, because both the Canadian dollar and the Swiss franc were both on the same side of our watch list. And you can see when they're on the same side, nothing much happens. You can see the price is just range, just giving you a mess of a market. But once at least one shows more strength than the other, you can clearly see in this situation, the Canadian dollar really did come in quite aggressive. So overall, we'll definitely be watching out for these three areas, potentially look for those buying opportunities. Ideally, we want more of a pullback to incite at least more sellers, because the pullback is starting to come in. Hopefully, we could end up getting the price coming back within this support and resistance area, because we have identified this as a major level, even based on a higher time frame. But that doesn't mean that the price might not necessarily react within one of these areas. You can see there's some areas right here, or at least some small SNR. The price might not necessarily get all the way there, but it might end up touching this particular area, especially if the buyers are very strong and the pullback might not necessarily come in as much. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on this one. Definitely the sellers are the ones coming in, but let's wait to see what ends up happening during one of the market opening time. So hope that is clear on all the Canadian dollar pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match the Canadian dollar with all the pairs on the sell side. So right now, we're going to move on to the US dollar and do the exact same thing. So we'll start off here with the euro against the US dollar. Now, similar situation, our bias here, yes, on Friday was to look for selling opportunities. You can see the three areas John had pointed out for us to look for our potential sells. Now, unfortunately, you can clearly see the price did not necessarily get all the way to the top. It actually was just bouncing between these areas. So at 10 o'clock, we did see the price attempting to come down, but never held below. So it came back up. So no trading opportunity at that time. But you can see at 3 o'clock, price was still holding to the upside, but still bounced off some small sellers area and didn't manage to come down. So this one was a bit difficult to get. Even I just missed it, unfortunately. But you can clearly see the bias to come to the downside really still did work out. So today, bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. So we'll be focusing on these three areas to look for our potential sells. We do know we are looking for selling opportunities as long as we're holding below this red support and this area. But the sellers really did come down quite aggressive. Right now, the price still seems to be holding within this area. Everybody is jumping in on sell, and there are no buyers. So we need some people to actually start coming in the buys. If you do see the price coming up, that's what we actually want to see. And if you do see the price holding below within this particular area, could end up looking for a nice selling opportunity here. But if not, price can still come up all the way to the top area. But we'll be waiting to see. If the sellers are very strong and the buyers are not going to show any strength, there's also the possibility we'll get the price breaking this area to the downside. And remember, we want to see the price holding below to confirm that it has actually broken down. And if it has done that, then you should be able to look for selling opportunities. You can see similar situations where it looks as if it's attempting to break to the downside, it just comes back in, making that a probe. So we don't necessarily be caught out on such trades. Ideally, most people call them what, breakout trades. So we don't necessarily want to be caught out on such, and that's the reason why we need confirmation that a level has actually been broken or not. So that's the game plan on what we're looking at doing on the euro against the US dollar. So let's move on to the next US dollar pair we do have, which is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, similar situation on Friday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the pullback did end up starting to come in. We did end up getting a slight probe right here. Price came back up and was holding above at around 10 o'clock. So there was a small buying opportunity, or at least it seemed the best buy was at 10. Because you can see at that point in time, the price was just grinding up slowly and slowly. Unfortunately, it would have been a bit difficult to grab this trade at 3 o'clock, just based on the fact that we didn't necessarily get that pullback coming up back to test this particular area. You can see the illustration that John had pointed out. Once we did get a breach for upside, a pullback potentially for us to look for those buys. But you can clearly see the price really did take off to the upside. As we mentioned, a lot of US dollar strength and similar situation, some yen weakness. So overall, today we're definitely going to be looking for those buying opportunities. However, we're not just going to be jumping in on the buys right now. We need to be patient, wait for the price to come back within the areas that we are actually interested in, and mainly reading the story of how the price comes back in. So overall, the fact that we've breached some major support and resistance area, hopefully we can end up getting the price coming back in within the support and resistance area for us to look for our buying opportunities there. But if one pair is very strong and the other very weak, there's potential for the price to break this area to the upside. If you see the price holding above, we should be able to look for buying opportunities there. But remember, for us guys, we prefer getting those pullbacks to come in, because that at least gives us the best aspect of risk to reward as well, and profit potential as well. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on the US dollar against the yen. But for right now, we will definitely need to be patient on this pair. So let's move on to the next US dollar pair, which is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Now, on this pair, on Friday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. The sales clearly did end up working out based on the non-farm payroll, but would have been a bit tricky to actually grab this, because you can see the whole time during the Asian session, in fact, starting from the previous day on Thursday, starting from the US session, the market was just ranging, not really doing much. As you can see, we seem to have been holding within between these two areas right there. So the price was there during the US session, similar situation during the Asian session as well as during the London session. So not much activity was happening, neither a pullback or the price actually properly breaking this area to the downside. But you can see at 3 o'clock, we didn't manage to come down. We did not necessarily get that pullback. And that's why this one would have been a bit tricky to actually grab this selling opportunity. But I do end up hoping a number of you managed to grab it on that. So that just because it went on Friday, that doesn't mean there are no opportunities for us today. So let's wait to see what ends up happening based on these three areas that we have identified for potential selling opportunities. So right now, similar situation, we're all the way down here. We're within a buyer's area. So we need either a breach to the downside and a pullback for us to look for the sells. But the first game plan would be waiting for a pullback to come in. Hopefully, we'll wait to see what kind of reaction happens within this area. If we don't see any reaction here, we want to see the exact same thing that I've illustrated here, right here at the top. If we do end up seeing that, then that's when it could be a very nice potential selling opportunity on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. But right now, let's incite a few buyers to come in first before we're able to look for those sells. So hope the game plan is clear cut on what we're looking at doing on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So moving on to the next US dollar pair, we have the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. This one was a bit clearer, and it seems like the New Zealand dollar pairs did something similar as well on the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. You can see at 10 o'clock, the price managed to actually break this area to the downside, the conservative area. We did end up getting a pullback coming in, and the price was holding within that particular area at 3 before it managed to come down. You can see the reason why we also mentioned correlation. If I look at the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar, it looks nearly exactly the same. Price came to the downside from 10 o'clock, was holding throughout the London session, and at 3, the fact that we were holding within that sellers area, you can clearly see the price managed to come down. So the same story ended up applying on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Price really came down quite aggressive, similar time during the non-farm payroll, which was at 3:30 on Friday. So today, the buyers here is definitely going to be looking for selling opportunities. But in order for us to sell, we need buyers to come in. So right now, the fact that the price is back within a seller's area, we do not want to jump in on any trading opportunities just yet. Either we will get that pullback coming in within the support and resistance area for us to look for our selling opportunities, or let's wait to see. These sellers are really strong and the buyers do not necessarily show up. There's potential that the price can break this area to the downside. When we get the price holding below, similar situation to what happened on Friday, could end up finding a nice selling opportunity as well on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So let's just be patient to wait and see. The reason why we also point out two criteria is because you do not want to be surprised when the price does something. So even though, let's say, for example, you're waiting for the price all the way here, if it comes down, you don't want to be shocked, then start figuring out what will you do. Always try and figure out what you do. If this happens, then you'll do this. But what if the opposite happens? What would you do? As long as you can prepare for such situations, you'll never be surprised in the charts, and you'll also have a clear mind on what you should actually be doing. So let's wait to see what ends up happening on the New Zealand dollar. So as we move on to the last US dollar pair, which is the US dollar against the Swiss franc, brand new entered on our watch list, and you can see the similar correlation that's coming with all the US dollar pairs as well as the Swiss franc pairs. At 3 o'clock, the Swiss franc got a lot of weakness, and similar situation at 3:30 or so, the US market really did end up getting a lot of strength. So today, the bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see the buyers who pushed up all the way to the top here. The sellers are starting to come down. Right now, the buyers are not there, especially if you look at how strong these buyers came into the upside. But look at their strength here. They really did end up slowing down. Similar situation. And right now, look at how they're coming in, meaning the buyers are not yet there. Chances are we could end up still getting some sort of pullback coming in, and that's exactly what we want to see. We don't want to necessarily jump in on those sells, because in the face of these strong buyers, it would not be a very good idea. But if you are into counters, you can be able to, but do make sure you are working within your risk parameters. But this would be the game plan that I would personally be looking for. Hopefully getting a pullback coming back in with this major support and resistance area. These are major levels that we've reached, especially in a higher time frame. So we'll wait to see how the price approaches this particular area. Hopefully we do end up getting some sort of probe or price action signal for us to potentially look for a nice buying opportunity on the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So let's wait to see what ends up happening, and I hope that is clear on all the US dollar pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match the US dollar as well as the Canadian dollar with all these pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to move on to the British pound pairs and do the same thing. So most of these pairs are brand new entrants on our watch list. So overall, our buyers here, just adjust this slightly, our buyers here is going to be looking for selling opportunities on the euro against the British pound. So the fact that the price has managed to come down, or at least is a brand new entrant, can realize where we are. We're so close within a buyer's area. And if we're looking for sales, we do not want to sell at a buyer's area. Ideally, let's hope to see if we can end up getting the prices giving us some sort of pullback coming in, potentially within this particular area, for us to look for selling opportunities there. But if we do end up getting the price breaching this holding below this particular support and resistance area, there is potential for a selling opportunity. But especially if we look at this price based on a higher time frame, there's potential. There's a major support and resistance area right there at the top. For those of you who have done the one-on-one mentorship will know exactly why we're looking at that area. So wait to see what ends up happening. If we can end up getting that pullback coming in, or we do end up getting the price breaching to the downside, ideally we should be prepared for both situations, or at least both scenarios. So we wait to see what ends up happening. Right now, remember, we also had some euro fundamentals, and that's why we started a few minutes late. There is some euro weakness coming in. So we expect that it could potentially end up pushing to the downside, especially due to the fact that there are no more news events. Can't see that, yes, there are news events, but most of them are speeches. These speeches will possibly incite the market to move a particular direction that's already been decided, but chances are it will not change the overall direction of what we're looking at. So the only other piece of news that's going to come out is later on for the US dollar at around 10 o'clock. So this news, we'll wait to see what ends up happening. At least right now, the fact that the euro weakness, that could be the reason why the euro against the British pound is starting to come down. And remember, when we look at the other euro pairs, the euro against the US dollar, or within a buyer's area, the euro against the Canadian dollar, we're just holding right there, but we do know that we want to sell that. Let's wait to see whether or not the US big boys are going to be interested in selling this, or the London big boys. So hope that's clear on what our game plan is. Right now, we're so close to the buyer's area. Let's wait to see what ends up happening on this pair. So moving on to the next currency pair, we do have brand new entrants on our watch list. I know these are fan favorite for many traders, the British pound against the Japanese yen. So today, our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see this is mainly one to do with the British pound as well, showing some strength, as well as the Japanese yen showing a lot of weakness as well. So right now, the fact that we've come all the way to the top, let's hope to see if we can end up getting a pullback. Obviously, we'd want to see the pullback coming in a bit lower for us to look for our buying opportunities. But remember, right now, we're also within some sort of small areas. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. That doesn't mean you just jump in and buy it. But remember, we need to incite a few more sellers, or at least trying to figure out, are the big boy buyers going to show interest here? If we don't see aggressive buyers there, we'll wait for the next area. If we don't see buyers there, chances are we'll be coming back all the way to this main area, right? So let's wait to see what ends up happening. If the sellers don't really come in and the buyers decide to take this price to the upside, and you see the price holding above, then we should be able to continue looking for buying opportunities. You can see we have gotten this area holding twice. One right here. You can see another situation right here where the price attempts to go to the upside, but doesn't hold and comes straight back. So we do not necessarily want to be caught out on such. Imagine all those people looking for buys right there. They did end up getting stopped out because chances are most of their stop losses are right there. So this has definitely incited a few people to look for sell, but not be part of the 95%. Let's wait to see if we can get the price breaching or potentially even giving us a pullback for us to look for a buy at a lower price. So hope that's clear. The British pound against the Japanese yen. As we move on to the next British pound pair, which is the British pound against the Australian dollar. Brand new entry in our watch list. And this situation, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. But if you recognize we're so close to an area where there are sellers, so we do not want to jump in on buying opportunities just yet. Let's hope to see if we can end up getting some sort of pullback. Some buyers look as if they're attempting to show up, especially the way the sellers have been coming down. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening on this pair. Either a breach to the upside and the price actually holds above for us to look for our buying opportunity, or we could end up getting this price at least coming down a bit lower for us to look for our buying opportunities within this area. Now, the price could still end up reacting within this location because remember, we always point out buy with buyers and sell with sellers. Now, if you do notice, this is an area where buyers have reacted from before. So it's not a surprise that they're reacting from there again. The level doesn't hold and you see the price coming down lower. You can see there are multiple levels where buyers have been pushing up from, whereas the price was going to the upside. So there are many levels where the buyers could react from. We've identified the main areas, but we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Obviously, the pullback is what we would want. If we don't see that, we'll just end up moving on to the next pair. But for now, this is going to be our game plan on the British pound against the Australian dollar. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next British pound pair. We do have the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. This is a pair that's a brand new entry in our watch list, and overall, our bias here is going to be looking for buying opportunities. Possibly, the way the price is moving up might have something to do with the British pound fundamentals. Remember, I did point out there's not much fundamental. There's Euro news that did come out at 9, as well as the British pound news that did also come out at 9. And you can see the news is positive on the British pound and negative on the euro. That's potentially why we are starting to see these prices starting to come up, especially since it started from 9 o'clock. But we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Similar situation, we want to see if we can end up getting the price breaching this area to the upside. Don't start jumping in on buying opportunities right now. Let's wait to see if the price is actually going to hold above for us to actually end up looking for buying opportunities. We've seen this countless times where people see the news, the price starts going up, everyone starts buying. And if everyone is jumping in on a buy here, it's very obvious that everyone is going to put their stop losses right here. So in such situations, don't be surprised that the price actually looks as if it's going to the upside, then it actually comes back in. Incites very many people to actually look for sells because all those people who are jumping in on buy, once they're stopped out, they stop thinking that it's a buy, they actually start thinking it's a sell. So once we incite enough people who are actually going to start looking for sells, that's when we might find the big boys actually showing interest and taking the buying opportunity. And that's the reason why a lot of traders end up losing around 90 to 95%. It's because of such situations. So be smart about this. Let's be patient. Let's wait for the pullback to come in for us to potentially look for those buying opportunities. If not, we need a proper breach and a hold above for us to confirm that that level has actually been broken for us to continue looking for buying opportunities on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. So hope that game plan is clear on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. So moving on to the next currency pair we do have, here we have the British pound against the Swiss franc. Now on Friday, our bias here was actually to look for selling opportunities. Remember, the British pound and the Swiss franc had both split sides. So on Friday, we were looking for sells. The fact that they're flip sides today, we will be looking for buying opportunities. So unfortunately, the sells did not work out. A number of Swiss franc pairs, as you did mention, or at least I did show you guys earlier, did not really work out. You can see the three areas that John had pointed out. Wanted to see whether or not we end up either getting the price breaching and holding below this area, or if we did get the price coming back in, to see the price actually holding below. But you can see none of the, or at least the game plan of what we're looking at, none of it happened. When the price came up during the London market open, we're not surprised that it went up, but once the price was holding above, we're not too sure about looking for that selling opportunity, because that would have been a bit risky to actually look for that sell right there, because remember, we always say sell within a seller's area and not a buyer's area. So as soon as we breached the upside, it became a buyer's area and it was actually holding. Because you can see the fact that the price is holding above, that did end up bringing in some caution. Now you can see at 330, price really did shoot to the upside. And the fact that the price confirmed, but once it broke to the upside, it was actually holding above. You can see at 430, this pair really did fall off our watch list for the sells. But the fact that today the buyers have switched for both these pairs, we will be now looking for buying opportunities, and we have identified these three areas for potential buyers. You can see right now where the price is reacting from. This could be potential buyers, but let's wait to see how this candlestick closes. Ideally, if it's coming in with such a wick, that might not necessarily be the big boy coming in, and we might end up seeing the price coming down a bit lower within this particular area for us to look for our buying opportunity. Remember, right now, many people will start jumping in on buying opportunities, not realizing that within a seller's area, this is the seller who pushed down lower. So you could end up easily finding this price coming down, inciting and stopping all those people who are jumping in on their buys, because guaranteed nearly all their stop losses would be below within this area where we actually have the yellow line. So let's wait to see what ends up happening on this. Let's confirm that these sellers are actually done, and this is really the big boy buyers for us to actually look for those buying opportunities on the British pound against the Swiss franc. So I hope that is clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched. Apologies. Mixed and matched all the British pound pairs with the pairs on the sell side. So right now, we're going to end up having a look at the indices as well as gold and silver. So remember, guys, if you have any questions for me, something is not clear, feel free to ask that in the Q&A section. I will be addressing all those questions at the end of this webinar. So let's move on to the NAS 100. Here's the US 100. So overall, on Friday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. Unfortunately, the sales did not fully work out. You can see the three areas that we had, or at least they did work out, but would have been a bit difficult to get, let me just say that. So during the London market, we're holding down within this area. We seem to have been some sort of range bouncing between these levels, as you can clearly see, even though we had the main SNR right there. And you can see all those levels were still being respected. Because you can see once the price did reach the upside at 3, we did get the price really going to the upside. So at that point in time, we wanted to see whether or not it was actually true. You can see at 430, that's when the price was actually at the top there. The sell did manage to come in. But the fact that we could not breach and hold below this yellow SNR, you can see every time we came down, we came straight back up. We came down, came straight back up, and we were holding above, meaning this level was actually never breached to the downside, it was only breached to the upside. So even though that's the case, we will still be looking for selling opportunities, even though they can see the price coming up higher, especially if you compare the way this seller, even though the buyer came up aggressive, the seller did the same thing. And now look at the way the buyer has come up, quite choppy, coming back all the way to this main seller's area. And that's the reason why today we'll still be looking for selling opportunities, especially if I do end up going to the 1 hour time frame. You'll be able to see, compare how this seller came down, because we're still in this seller's market, and look at how the buyers have come up quite choppy, and we're starting to slow down within this area. So overall, you'll definitely still be looking for selling opportunities as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area. Now, if the price is able to break and hold below the red, break and hold above the red support and resistance area. At that time, remember with gold and the indices were purely technical, meaning if the price breaks this area to the upside, we see a breach to the upside and the price actually holds above, we should be able to actually look for buying opportunities. But as long as we're holding below this red SNR, our bias here is definitely going to be looking for selling opportunities. So right now, let's wait to see if we can end up getting some sort of probe or price action signal, the price holding to the downside for us to look for selling opportunities on the NAS 100. So I hope that's clear on at least what our game plan is looking at on this pair. The price breaches to the upside, we look for buys. But as long as we're holding below, because you can see we're holding below this main seller's area right here, who's the one who pushed down. So as long as we're still holding within that zone, we're definitely going to be looking for selling opportunities on this pair. So hope that is clear as we move on to the next indice that we do have, another fan favorite, the Dow Jones. So on this pair, our bias on Friday was to look for selling opportunities. Still the same situation today. As you can see, During the London market open, we're within a buyer's area. Remember, we keep on pointing out, do not sell at a buyer's area because there's a high chance of those buyers will actually end up reacting. You can see in this situation, they did. Coming to the upside during the non-farm payroll at 3, it really did shoot up quite aggressive. But you can see the price ended up coming back in within this particular area, giving a nice pin bar right there. And if you do note the time, that was at exactly 4:30 when it did end up touching that area. You can see the price still managed to come all the way down towards the main buyer's area. So there was a potential sell. And that's the reason why we also point out these times you could find some nice trading opportunities within those areas. But you can see the price did end up reacting within that area. Coming to the upside, remember, this price does seem, or this market does seem to be in a range, especially if you look at the 1 hour, we're just bouncing between these levels. So right now, you can clearly see even the price goes all the way to the top here. It was just a probe. So right now, that's the reason why most people will probably wonder, the price go to the upside, why are we still looking for sell? It's because this was not very convincing and we haven't really properly held above that particular area. So overall, the fact that also the market structure is a range, ranges are most likely to end up giving us very, very many probes. You can see even down within the bottom here, you can see how many times that the price has attempted to break this area to the downside, but the fact that the price was never holding below that level was not broken. So we're still within the range, still going to be looking for selling opportunities on this. So especially if we get a pullback coming in, we could potentially look for selling opportunities there. But remember, if we do end up getting the price breaking this area to the upside, and we do not want a small break, we want a strong breach to the upside and a pullback coming in and showing us that the price is actually holding above, that's when we will definitely be looking for buying opportunities. But for now, the fact that we're holding below, we're definitely still going to be looking for sells on the Dow Jones. So I hope that is clear in all the indices that we do end up having a look at. So moving on to fan favorites, so we'll start off here with silver. Now, silver on Friday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. It is still the same situation today, still looking for buys, but just at the top level slightly. But even just based on the story of what happened on Friday, you can see we're within the seller's area. We were looking for buys, so no buying opportunities at the seller's area. Sellers did end up giving us a pullback throughout the London session. At 3 o'clock, we did end up getting the price coming down quite aggressive, but once we did end up getting a probe, you can see the price tented here, came to the upside. So it's a similar illustration to what John had pointed out. You can see the price came down, rather than holding below, it came straight back up. In this situation, the price came all the way up to there, but it still managed to pull back down, coming back within the support and resistance area, and did end up giving us a buying opportunity. But it's a similar situation. The fact that the price went above, we did not get a proper hold above this area. So that's the reason why this level has not been broken. And we'll pretty much be watching out for the same area that we did have on Friday. So our buyers here is still going to be looking for buying opportunities based on these three areas, aggressive buyers right there. So as long as we're holding above the red support and resistance area, our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. Right now, we're getting a pullback. Let's see how far the pullback can come in. Wait to see what kind of market structure we end up getting within the support and resistance area. Might need to be something similar to what happened on Friday. We don't know, but chances are, even if the price comes all the way back down to the red SNR, we're still going to be looking for those buying opportunities. Only when this level is reached to the downside will we actually switch our bias and start looking for selling opportunities. So let's see if we can incite a number of people to jump in on those sells. First, the price coming down lower. Let's see where the big boy buyers are going to show interest before we're able to continue with those buying opportunities on silver. So hope that is clear. As we move on to our last and fan favorite, which we do end up having, which is gold. A lot of people like trading gold. Maybe it's because the amount of pips that this market actually ends up moving, but there's also risk on both sides. But hope to see at least a number of people do enjoy trading this. So on Friday, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today. We're looking at the market structure. We're in a huge range, just bouncing between these two levels. So as usual, the best place to look for a sell is at the top of the range. And definitely, if you're looking for buys, yes, it could be at the bottom. But overall, the fact that we're going to be looking for selling opportunities, well, it might end up being a bit risky looking for those buying opportunities at the bottom. Even though on Friday, it did end up working out. So during the London session, the price started coming down. At 3, the price really did shoot to the downside, coming all the way back down towards the buyers. The buyers reacted quite aggressive, showing us evidence at this level right here. So let me just show this. So this level right here, when the price came all the way down, it never held below, it came back up. And you can see if you were, the price managed to go all the way back up to the top, and the sell still did end up working out from all the way up there. So that's the reason why when we're in a range, the prices end up being quite a bit choppy. But if you did end up looking for your selling opportunities there, you would have ended up making some good money on this pair. So overall, the bias on this is still going to be looking for selling opportunities based on the same areas. Aggressive sells right there at the top. We have a support and resistance area here, where hopefully we can end up getting some sort of pullback coming in within this area for us to look for selling opportunities. We need to make sure we manage our trade within this particular area. But even just looking at it right now, there does seem to be an area, some sort of support and resistance area. You can see how many times this level right here has reacted from. So even though we're looking for those sells, you never know whether or not these buyers might end up attempting to push it up a bit higher. Hopefully, we can end up getting the price coming back up within the main sellers area for us to look for those selling opportunities. But right now, I think this one I just need to be a bit patient, wait to see and make it clear what the big boy is actually trying to do. So hope that is clear on all the currency pairs, including gold and silver, as well as the indices. So that's pretty much it. We've looked at all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side. And remember, today, not necessarily much fundamentals, just a bunch of speeches. So there might not necessarily be that much volatility today. But at least this week, starting tomorrow, we do end up having a bit of a good number of news and fundamentals coming out. So definitely tomorrow will be a lot of fireworks on the charts. So this is the watch list for now. So let me see if I can address any questions in the Q&A section, if there are any. So I'm seeing Ivy Wanyama is saying, hi team, thank you so much. You saved my account from ICU on Friday. I traded GU. Oh, that's good. Hopefully we'll see your screenshot, because on Friday, the British pound against the US dollar, yes, we were looking for selling opportunities. So I guess you took advantage of that US dollar strength. So then let me just quickly have a look at the British pound against the US dollar. Yeah, this is a very good trade. So very well done on that trade, Ivy. We'll be looking forward to seeing your screenshots as well. So karibu sana on that. So I'm not seeing any more questions, which is okay. We do end up having around 5 minutes to prepare, at least to see what is going to be happening during the London session. We'll see how those big boys are actually going to end up reacting. Now, remember, guys, if you are interested in the Afriforex Amplified program, the AMP, a program where we sit down with you guys for the whole month. All right. So as soon as we finish these sessions, we come here, we'll analyze the charts together, we'll look for trading opportunities together, and hopefully making some good money. But the main thing is to learn, figure out how is it that you're meant to be thinking about the markets, what should you and how should your approach be. So if you are interested in that, something that you feel that you need, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are right there in the chat box. Just send us a text or give us a call. We'll end up calling you back, whichever one is fine. And at least we can see whether or not we can slot you in for this month's course. So feel free to do that. The link should be there in the chat box. So I guess that's it from me and from us. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hope you found value in these sessions. Hope you make some good pips in the charts. And remember, make sure you have your targets for the week, whether it's for the week or for the day, so you at least know when you should actually stop. A number of traders end up facing a lot of issues because of over trading, because they made some money rather than stopping for that day. And based on the fact that they don't have a target, it ends up being quite difficult. Yes, you can make a lot of money, but just figure out what will you make today. Once you hit that target, we are in a much better position tomorrow to actually hit your next target. So remember that. So once again, thank you guys so much. You guys have an amazing trading day. God bless. Happy trading and bye for now. Cheers, guys.